Okay, so um, now I realize let me look at my notes and see if I have done everything that I'm supposed to do. Let me look at all of the content principles and all of the formatting conventions and check to make sure that I've done everything I'm supposed to, at least for this part. Oh yeah, and oh, I can show off another little way. So this is the ordinary argument markup, all of this to right here. This down here, I'm gonna show off and label my stuff. I'm going to put this the fully clarified version of argument above. No, I'll say passage, because not everything is an argument up there. A passage above. Okay. Well, I don't know. That might be misleading. Let's just say fully clarified argument. Let's just say that. Now reformatted. Okay. All right. Cool. I think she'll like that. So I noticed that I have not yet employed uniform language. Everything else is looking good so far. So let's see, where can I apply uniform language? Nothing really here. Here I notice that I talk about learning in terms of the sacrifice. Here I use the word studies. Here I'm talking again about the definition in relation to my sacrifice generally. And here I'm talking about my sacrifice in terms of learning. So I think I'm going to want to take out studies and use the term learning instead. So I can decide at any point to prioritize, and I wasn't just talking about learning in general, but my own online learning, to make it precise, over my, and here I say kids, and over here I say children. So I could either say children or kids' own learning. So I think I'll say children's. And what am I talking about? To be super precise, well, I want to make sure that the reader knows that that they weren't learning face to face, that I'm not helping them with their face to face learning whenever I can choose to prioritize my own online learning. I'm choosing to prioritize over their own online learning. This helps them to better understand my argument, because it's not like I have a teacher in the classroom with them to help them. So I'm going to say children's online learning. Okay, so I've made that more precise. And of course, I picked this up from my original passage when I was talking about sacrifice, right? So let me go back up here. I think that's the language I was using in the context. Yeah, learning online. Yeah, so I'm paying attention to context. I was able to use uniform language, and looking at what I said in context and preface en route to my argument, I realized that that's the thing that I was focusing on, not just learning, but online learning. No one is physically forcing me to turn away from my own studies. So again, I want to be consistent with my language here, my own online learning, and focus on who's learning. Theirs is my children's online learning. So again, making it more precise, using language, uniform language, to really show the logical linkages from one statement to another. My sacrifice meets definition. So my sacrifice, what sacrifice? Sacrificing my own time to learn for the benefit of my children. I'm going to use uniform language right here. So which sacrifice? Well, the one that I'm talking about down here. I want to show very explicitly the linkage between this statement and this statement, since I obviously think this statement right here is offering direct support for this statement. So my fact sacrifice of my sacrificing is what I'm going to have to say. My own time to learn for the benefit of my children meets the definition I am using for what it means to do something of my own free will. Okay, so my sacrificing my own time to learn. I guess I could put online learning, but I remember she said something about sometimes, you don't want to go too crazy with uniform language, and maybe it's if I employ more words here, it's going to be harder to follow. So I think this is good. My sacrificing my own time to learn for the benefit of my children. I think I will still say children's learning. If I say learn here, meets the definition I am using for what it means to do something of one's own free will. I think I'm supposed to have an apostrophe there. Okay, I am sacrificing my own time to learn for the benefit of my children of my own free will. I guess I could say to learn online, but I think this is pretty good, and this argument is much more nuanced, so I'm thinking that she's going to be okay with this. So is there anything else that I need to do? Let me go back and check my notes. Oh, if I want to get some more extra credit, I might try the argument pattern. So I've already given the diagram. The diagram is supposed to be for the ordinary argument. So I think I'll put this directly underneath the ordinary arguments. It's technically, it's based on statement numbers. Of course, the reformatted version helps me to see what the relationship is. So no, I think I'll keep the diagram under here. Oops. Okay. I just have to remember that the statement numbers refer to that in the argument, but I still see, 3 premises are being given in support of my subconclusion statement 18, which is right here, and then that's used to support that. So premises 1 through 3, I use to directly support this statement, and then once this has been established as a conclusion, I then use this statement as a premise for my final conclusion. Of course, I didn't necessarily do it in just that order in my original argument, but I can see that as the structure of the argument. But let's go, now that I've looked at the structure of the argument with my diagram, which I'm going to hope she gives me extra credit for, even though she said we don't have to do diagrams or patterns. The original argument shows me that this is the pattern. Oh, shoot, I forgot to do something. She's going to take off points. She told me that if I have more than one conclusion and one is not merely repeating the other, that I have to say which conclusion is final and which one is the sub-conclusion. So I need to mark this as the final conclusion, this as the sub-conclusion, and then this as the final conclusion. I cannot believe I almost forgot that. Okay, all right, but now I have it, so good. So let's do the pattern. Man, I'm glad I decided to do the pattern because I noticed that oversight. So I've got a final conclusion. She says, don't use arrows when doing patterns because it's not about what's supporting what. It's about just the sequence of the statements in the original reasoning. I remember that from all the video instructions and the 13 examples she gave us. In the videos, in addition to the written ones in the modules, is followed by at least one premise. I have 3 premises, but she says when you have premises together in a consecutive manner, you use only one P to mean at least one premise. So I'll use one P even though my final conclusion is followed by 3 premises, which is then followed by at least one subconclusion, by subconclusion. All right, and so I'm thinking if I have more than one subconclusion, I'm still going to just write one SC, meaning followed by at least one subconclusion. But she didn't really speak to that, so if I did have more than one subconclusion, she might go ahead and give me credit because she didn't touch on that specifically. That said, I don't have to worry about that right now. I don't have to put this in here because it was just repeated. Not a big deal, but I'm going to show off to her. So in brackets, I'm just going to put FC repeated, and what this will show her is that I'm showing that in the original argument, the sequence was this, where the final conclusion was restated at the end, the main point, if you will, the main thing I was trying to convince the reader of. And I'm putting it in brackets to let her know that I know that's not officially necessary for the pattern, but that it's there. I'm going to go ahead and label this to show off some more. Argument. What was the term? So this is the pattern, right? So let me go ahead and label that. See what, but she'll be really impressed and want to give me some extra credit for that. Let's go ahead and label this. Show off that I know what she means by argument diagram. Again, she says we don't have to do these, but do these on our own. Maybe we'll have to do it for a grade later, but not here. Argument diagram. Okay, So let's see. Whoa, this is looking really good. Everything's coming all together. I've learned so much. Okay, now, um, okay, this part. I haven't done anything with it besides besides number and bracket. I did not. I decided that none of this really is part of my argument. This is pretty much just the context of what I'm talking about when I say sacrifice. So here I say what my sacrifice is and the internal external causes. None of those statements prior to 14 occur here. So I'm going to interpret this as all contextual. If it's all contextual, merely contextual, it's excess verbiage with respect to the actual argument I gave in response to that prompt in the foundational writing assignment. So it all gets crossed out. Okay, so let's take one final look at my notes and at my response just to make sure I haven't missed anything. So I'm looking very carefully. Okay, let's imagine 10 minutes have passed by. I've got that done. I put my labels and my numbers and my brackets in the right place, caught things that I missed. I've presented the argument pattern as taught in hopes of bonus points. I have labeled this to show off. I've got my fully clarified argument. I've got the pattern, I've got the reformatted version where I've employed uniform language. This is consistent with the work that I did here. And of course it doesn't have any of this since I crossed it out. And then I even did a diagram hoping that she'll give me extra credit for that. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty smart. Can't wait to see where I made mistakes and where I can improve.